We also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie, and we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
With nearly 6,000 Napa Auto Parts stores and over 17,000 Napa Auto Care centers, Napa is the fuel that helps drivers like you get up and go.
Have a hot take of your own that you're just dying to get off your chest? Text or call the ESPN Dayton hotline at 937-518-1410. That's how you can be a part of our local shows throughout the week, like the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays at 3 p.m., and the Keith Byers Show, Mondays at noon. Call or text the shows at 937-518-1410.
All right, everybody, welcome in. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. I'm your host, Justin Kinner, riding solo today. Shout out to Kev Nash. He's out actually holding it down at a work event. He's over at Bourbon Barbers over downtown on East 3rd Street. A really cool spot. They just opened up. Shout out to Bourbon Barbers again. We were just live out there earlier today. I got a fresh cut today, and we'll tell you more about them coming up here later on. But I'm excited to be hanging out with you guys today. Opening up the show, plenty to talk about. Reds back in action tonight. There's a lot I want to talk about when it comes to the Reds because we suffer as a fan base dealing with an organization that right now, although it's pretty dang cool watching how how much they've taken off, how far they have taken off as far as, you look at the fact that this past weekend they called up their top prospect. How many times this year have we seen a headline where the Reds have called up their top prospect or one of their top 5 prospects? We shouldn't be talking about a team that's in contention, but yet we are. But yet it doesn't feel like they're in contention because they're in the middle of a decline. So it's like this team just lacks that juice and that magic that they had, back in June. And the thing that's fascinating about it to me is, well, your perception of this team, your thoughts on this team. That's kind of where I'm at as far as that's concerned, because the bottom line is mathematically, I can go and I could look at the standings in Major League Baseball and I could talk about the fact that if back in March, and we've talked about this, I'm not a fan of using March expectations to base our perception of where the team is right now, because if we would have known that Matt McClain would have been playing at an all-star level, that Ellie De La Cruz would be a top 5 most exciting player in baseball, that Spencer Steer would just be an Iron Man as far as whatever position you put him in, whether it's at first base, third base, outfield, DH, whatever it is, that he would kill it. If you would tell me all of these things, then I would not say, oh, this team's going to lose 100 games right now. This team already, with still, 2 weeks to go in August, they've won 2 more games than they did last year. They're 64-61, but they continue to slide in the NL Central. They're 4-6 in their last 10. The Cubs are 6-4 in their last 10. The Brewers are 7-3 in their last 10. Well, all the teams, this is around the time of year you want to be playing your best baseball. And they're not doing that. They're playing very That's my professional opinion. That's the only way I can word it. They are playing baseball right now. If MLB Network called and said, Kenner, we would love to have you on our program. We would love to bring your professional analysis and your opinion of the Cincinnati Reds. And then they would say, Kenner, what's your thoughts on the Reds? And I'd be like, on MLB Network. If really ESPN called me and said, Kenner, we want you to hang out with Tim Kirkshin, and we want you to hang out with Todd Frazier on their MLB Tonight program, and they want you to come on and tell us about the Reds, what would your professional analysis of the Reds be right now? I would say, that's all I got. That's it. Like, they're very right now. And I know we're doing this whole, the future is bright, the future is bright. The future felt bright when we were sitting here watching a team that was winning 12 straight. And it wasn't just that they were winning 12 straight. They could have lost some of those games in that 12-game win streak, and we still would have felt good about the direction of the franchise because they were hitting the ball. They were hitting the ball. They were putting runs up on the board. They were the most exciting team in baseball. Right now, they are not the most exciting team in baseball. Right now, they are Simple as that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no nice way to put it. There's no mean way to put it. They are just simply And I bring this up because is the future as bright as what we think? Is the future as bright as what we think? Because we're falling for the trap of thinking that the rest of baseball is going to stay the same. The problem is baseball does stay the same, and that could be a scary thing when it comes to your Reds. They showed us at the deadline. I'm a big Nick Krall fan. I think he's done a fantastic job considering the situation he's been put in to rebuild. I don't necessarily fully blame Nick Krall for not making a bigger move at the deadline because I think he's at the mercy of what ownership allows him to do. Sometimes I think we're unfair with how we evaluate general managers because they are at the mercy of what the ownership allows them to do, you know? So maybe the Castellinis just said, okay, enough. You know, we've stacked this roster without having to spend a dime. Why do we want to go spend money when we don't have to? That is the wrong way of looking at it if you're the Castellini family. But what can you do if you're Nick Krall? Not a whole hell of a lot other than, well, I want to stay employed. So yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. Anything you say, sir. That's kind of the situation he's in. But the problem is who's to say that the Reds won't be aggressive in the offseason? I mean, we thought they were going to be aggressive at the deadline and they didn't do it. I think that the Reds, I think that we are going to be punished ultimately for the strength of this team is going to be the weakness of this team. And here's why. The Reds are going to constantly question whether they should go after anybody in free agency or at any trade deadline because, well, we could go get a big name bat or a big name pitcher at the deadline, or we could just rely on calling up Noelvi Marte, or we could just wait on Hunter Green to get healthy. And we've seen how that's worked out so far. Noelvi Marte, I'm sure, is going to be a fantastic player for the Reds. He looks the part. I mean, he dominated. I mean, in just, AA, AAA alone this year. I mean, he moved up to AAA and got better. I mean, the guy can hit. There's no doubt about it. But to be fair, every player, I'd say 90% of players who are called up from AAA all put up good enough numbers at AAA to be called up. Just because you have good AAA numbers doesn't mean that you are guaranteed to be an elite Major League Baseball star. You know what I mean? Like there is no guarantee that just because you killed it at the minor league level, that all of a sudden you are going to be a legitimate star, which is why it is a gamble when you have a deep, farm system, because right now, some of these players may never be hotter than what they are in the minor league system. Noelvi Marte dominating in the AA and the AAA ranks. What if he comes here and just falls flat on his face? That was their number one prospect that they could have moved on from to go get a proven talent that could have actually helped this team right now. But you saw how sloppy he looked in the infield the other day. Now, some of this could be nerves because he's just called up. I mean, hell, we watched, Elly De La Cruz field a ball and just throw it wide left. I mean, he looked like Cade York. I mean, he looked like the Browns kicker. He was wide left when he threw that and tried to throw him out at first base. They were so sloppy. They were so messy the other night against the Blue Jays in Game 3. Was at that game. Told you guys about that yesterday. Miserable day at the ballpark. It was beyond hot. My mom passed out. We had to, get her up the stairs and get her out of the ballpark. We parked a mile away. Temperature's horrible. The game was horrible. The Reds played horrible. I mean, it was just insanely horrible. One of my worst experiences at the ballpark in quite a long time. And the Reds had a lot to do with that. I could sit in a hot temperature. I could sit out in the hot temps, drenched in sweat, on the brink of passing out from the heat, from heat exhaustion if I'm watching a team play the way they're supposed to. But that's the thing. The Reds are living and dying by what worked for them for 1 month. In a 1 month stretch, they had called up McClain. They'd called up Elly De La Cruz, right? You already had Spencer Steer. All right, you called up Andrew Abbott. And every rookie that they called up from the system didn't just come up and play well. They played at an elite level. Matt McClain was in the conversation of being a legitimate all-star after only playing a couple months. Andrew Abbott came in and had an ERA under 1 for his first 3 or 4 starts. Elly De La Cruz looked like a damn MVP. And in fact, Elly De La Cruz played for 3 weeks? And you had people who actually wanted to change the rules of the All-Star game to just make sure and guarantee that he had a spot on the roster because that's how exciting of a player he was. That stuff right there is actually what ultimately hurt the Reds. I know that sounds crazy, but the hit rate on that, the success rate on calling those rookies up, that worked so well that spooked the ownership away from actually making ballsy decisions come the deadline. Actually, it was a pretty ballsy decision to make no decision at the deadline, if you ask me. But do you guys see what I'm saying? The Reds are actually being punished for what worked back in June. Oh, look, we need pitching. You know what? No, we don't. Look, we'll just call up another rookie. Oh, we need hitting. No, we don't. We'll just call up Noelvi Marte. We could have signed someone or traded for someone at the deadline, but no, we'll just bring up Marte. This is the stuff I'm talking about. And what makes you think that they're not going to have that same approach come the offseason? What makes you think they're not going to have that same approach come the offseason? Now, they're 4 games back of the division right now. You mean to tell me going out to get a legitimate arm and another bat at the deadline, that wouldn't have helped them? All right, right now they're a game back of the wild card. They're still legitimately in the hunt there. The thing that you guys need to understand, too, and by the way, if you're just tuning in, Justin Kinner with you here, Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. The Diamondbacks right now are a half a game back of the wild card. This is a team that lost 11 straight. This is a team that the Reds just swept a couple weeks ago. Now they've turned it around. They went from losing 10 or 11 straight to winning 8 of their last 10. They've won 3 straight. They're back up to being ahead of the Reds in the damn division, in the wild card. I say all of these things because, I think ownership is hoping that the Reds plummet over the next month and a half, because it's one thing if think about this, guys. If the Reds finish 10 games under 500, or if they finish 10 games back in the division, the ownership can now look at you crybaby fans, right? And I don't think you guys are being crybaby fans. I think those who demanded that the Reds be aggressive at the deadline, you were in the right, because I was with you on that. I think what ownership is counting on is they are praying to God that the Reds finish 10 games behind in the division, so that they can look at you and say, see, going out and being aggressive to get a Max Scherzer or a Justin Verlander, we weren't a Max Scherzer away or a Justin Verlander away from winning the division. But you know what we could say if they lose it by 3 or 2 or heaven forbid 1 game? Can you imagine 1 game? Don't tell me that 1 additional bat, don't tell me that 1 additional arm at the deadline was not worth it if they end up losing the division or missing a wild card spot by 1 game. That to me is unacceptable when it's all said and done. But I truly believe that. I truly believe that the Reds ownership is hoping that they continue to slide. Obviously, they hope they make the playoffs, yes. But I think what ownership is hoping is that, okay, we play well enough to make the playoffs, but if not, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to compete. I don't want to compete for the playoffs. I want us to be 10 games out. I want us to be 10 games back of the division. I want to look up at the division and say, you know what? I would hate to do that whole, you miss it by 1 or 2 games. And then you look back and say, man, if we, David Bell doesn't pull a pitcher there, or if he doesn't pull the pitcher right there, if he would have, pinch hit there or not started so-and-so here. It's tougher to stomach when you lose the division or miss out on the wild card by 1 game to 2 games, half game, all that fun stuff. Ownership wants this team dead and out. They want them out. They're happy that they're 4 games back of the division. They're happy. The division, I don't think that's going to be a possibility anymore. If the Reds have another run in them, we'll reassess that. But I truly believe that the Reds are done. I don't think they have a chance of winning the division, which is unfortunate. But the wild card, they still have a shot. And mainly because a lot of teams are not playing very well. I mean, the team that's sitting at top of the wild card is the Philadelphia Phillies. They're 68-57. All right. But they're 5-5 in their last 10. It's not like they're killing it. All right. You have the Cubs, who are 6-4 in their last 10. They're winning more than they're losing, but it's not like they're dominating and running away with the competition, right? The Giants, they're 3-7 in their last 10. They hold the final wild card spot. And then the Diamondbacks, they're 65-61. They're a half game back of the wild card, but I know they're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 3 straight, but we've watched them. This team is fresh off of a 10-game losing streak. They're a yo-yo as well. The Reds, I don't think they're a yo-yo team anymore. I think that they're just on the down. Like, I think that they I don't know why 33 years old and using a yo-yo reference, but nonetheless, I think right now we as fans, we're you for those of you who have actually used a yo-yo, right? You drop the yo-yo, you wait for it to come back up, right? Well, we've dropped it, and now we're sitting here. We hear it spinning at the bottom. You're waiting for it to ride the line all the way back up. It's hanging down there. You get the knot, and now we as fans are sitting here trying to pull the knot out of the string and the yo-yo, right? How many of you had like the cool badass? I remember, I would, if I'd get my allowance as a kid, I'd want to go to the store and I'd not get one of them simple, cheap little yo-yos, little plastic ones. No, I wanted the one that lit up. Sometimes when you would strike it, down at the bottom and start playing some music. Oh yeah, you were a cool kid when you showed up to school with one of them little light up yo-yos. Let me tell you, focus, Kenner, focus. Bottom line is, tired of the Reds season being a yo-yo. I just want this team to roll like they were doing back in June. Unfortunately, I think June is what punished them. June is what changed the mindset. It gave the ownership and the management group of this Reds team, it gave them an escape. It gave them an out. Why give up prospects to go get proven talent when our prospects are coming up and killing it? I'm telling you, that's what I've been saying all year. What the Reds are doing is not normal. You don't have an entire infield of rookies with Joey Votto excluding, and all of a sudden expect to be a contender. And they're doing it, or they were doing it. Now they're mathematically doing it, but they're not doing it. This is not they're not playing good baseball right now. They're playing atrocious baseball. And that's on David Bell. This team is playing sloppy baseball. That's on David Bell. I always say this too, like, in the NBA, you get drafted and you go right to a coach. And how you perform under that coach, you either fail and it's the coach's fault, or if you play really, really well, it's because of the coach, right? Same thing in the NFL. I know sometimes we move the goalposts. I know a lot of Bengals fans, you keep moving the goalposts on whether you want to give Zach Taylor credit for Joe Burrow. Some of you wanted him gone last year. You Bengals, I couldn't believe it. I was like, look, always look for a reason to bury the Bengals, but I'm pro Zach Taylor because I think what he has done, and I give management credit for letting him kind of ride the ship a little bit, not doing the whole, well, we're not going to give you any talent, but if you don't win, we're booting you out of here. I'm glad that they said, okay, now that you have talent, let's see what you can do. Zach Taylor's proven he can coach in this league and coach at a high level, and he's done it, and he's doing it. You guys wanted him gone last year because Joe Burrow wasn't playing well, but that's the nature of it, right? When a player plays well in the NFL, it's because of the coach, right? When the player plays poorly, they got to get rid of the coach. We got to get a coach in here that's going to maximize that quarterback, that talent, right? Same thing in the NBA. All right, when you draft a star player, a Zion or whoever, and they come in and it's like, oh man, they're not really developing well. They got to get rid of the coach. They got to get a coaching staff, and you're going to do that. The difference is in baseball, you get drafted, you go play for this coach, you go play for this system, you go play for, this level. You can kill it in AA, you could kill it at AAA, and then now you've been coached up. Now you're playing at such a high level. You come up to the Reds, and now we want to say David Bell is responsible for the success of this team when no. Have you noticed all of these guys that came from the minor leagues, they were playing their best baseball coming out of the minor leagues. They get to the major league level, and that's when they've played their poorest level of baseball. And now it's David Bell kind of sitting around saying, oh, I still have faith in this team. I still believe that we can hit a ball even though we can't. I still believe that we could play defense even though we can't. Now I'm just being mean. But nonetheless. All right. It's the Kinner and Kev Show right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. I'm going to step away for a few moments. I want to stick on the baseball side of things today. I want to talk about the Angels. Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout. Why are we talking about the fact that the Angels aren't going to be able to, they're going to have to lose Shohei Ohtani? Right? Like we're talking about a team that rolled the dice at the deadline and chose to add to the roster instead of moving on from Shohei Ohtani, who could have got them a plethora of obviously prospects, and they could have rebuilt for the future. Instead, they were aggressive. They kept him. They went for it at the deadline, and now they continue to lose, and now they're being ridiculed. I'm here to tell you, I want to have the discussion of what is worse, folks. What is worse? What is worse? Being a fan of a small market team like the Reds, who even when they have talent, you know that they're not going to be able to keep it and sustain the success? Or is it worse being a fan of a team that has money, that has resources, and still can't figure it out? I don't know what's worse as far as the feeling of a fan, but I know this as a guy who is paid to give his opinion every day, and as a guy that is paid to analyze these situations. I look at the Angels. And I don't know why they don't get more criticism. I don't know why we don't put them in the conversation as one of the worst franchises in sports, because it's one thing when, like the Browns for that long stretch where they had no talent. They went 0-16. They won 2 games in 2 years. They were just god awful, right? But they were losing games, but they had no talent. That's not an excuse. I mean, they were a bad organization because they couldn't even get the talent. But I think it's worse when you have talent and lose than when you can't find talent and lose. And by the way, it all stinks. But my point is I think the Angels are an embarrassment. I think the Angels are a disgrace. I think that the Angels should be discussed more as one of the worst franchises in all of sports. You have Shohei Ohtani, arguably the most dominating baseball player in our lifetimes, who is a top 5 pitcher and a top 5 hitter and the most dynamic player in baseball, complemented by statistically the best player of all time in Mike Trout. And you can't win? I think that is a million times worse being a large market team like the Angels than being a team like the Reds and being a team like the Orioles and some of these other small market teams. Let's talk about it. What's worse, being a fan of a team like the Reds, who you know that there's so many limitations that the margin for error is so slim, or being a fan of a team like the Angels, who has Shohei Ohtani, who has Mike Trout, and they still can't even win with those guys? Let's talk about it. I'm alone today. So you guys can jump in and be the co-host if you like. Give me a call, 518-1410. Sorry, folks, I haven't even checked the social media side yet. I'm going to check the comment section, and I'll get to some of your responses coming back. But excited to be with you. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
I can't wait for what's next. Even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist-prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Drowning in IRS debt? If you can't afford to pay your IRS debt due to economic hardship, you can now be free of IRS collection efforts by taking advantage of a special IRS tax hardship program. This program allows Americans who owe the IRS to resolve their delinquent tax debt once and for all. In some cases, maybe even reducing what you owe significantly. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Simply dial 800-375-2830. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back or have years of unfiled tax returns, help is standing by. Just call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-375-2830 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. That's 800-375-2830 to see if you qualify. That's 800-375-2830.
Paid for by government.com. Have you heard? Morgan's silver dollars are back for 2023. For the 100th anniversary, the U.S. Mint released the first legal tender Morgans in 100 years. They sold out instantly. Now, Morgan's silver dollars are back in 2023, minted in 99.9% pure silver, but only 275,000 coins were minted, and they will go fast. The entire market and experts agree this is a big deal and an amazing opportunity for both coin and silver buyers. Just call 1-800-571-6468 and you are guaranteed a 2023 brand new uncirculated 99.9% pure silver Morgan dollar. But with limited quantities, you must call now. To learn more, call 1-800-571-6468. Plus, you'll receive a free bonus Patriots pack, new and improved, a $25 value free with every order. Call 1-800-571-6468 now to secure your new 2023 Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-571-6468.
Hey, Logan Wilson here. Our defense reads the signs of the offensive formation. If we miss the signs, they make a big play. Railroad crossings have warning signs. If you miss them, it could be game over. Do you know about the blue and white ENS sign at the crossing?
Stuck on the railroad crossing? Get out of your vehicle. For help, call the number on the blue and white emergency notification system sign at the crossing. Give them the crossing number to alert train traffic. Remember, find the blue and white to save your life.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Everybody knows that Roosters is a fun, casual joint with their award-winning waitstaff, great food, fun, and laughter. It's a quick stop on the way home to sit back and unwind. It's a front row seat to the big game. Roosters is where you, your family, and friends can order pizzas, sandwiches, salads, and more. And the home of award-winning wings that are fresh, never frozen, and so big you won't believe it. It's your family's other dinner table. Roosters, a fun, casual joint, and the official wing sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
It's time to say goodnight to that check engine light with the free AutoZone Fix Finder service. It'll help troubleshoot the likely cause of your light for free. Restrictions apply. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Dayton sports fans, don't forget to follow and subscribe to ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. Listen, watch, interact. Search ESPN Dayton on YouTube.
Are you ready?
Justin Kinner back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. It's the Kinner and Kev Show. This Friday, we'll be live at Frickers in Miamisburg. Frickers, 741 by the Dayton Mall. Come hang out with Kev and I. We'll be taking the show on the road. It'll be the Kinner and Kev Show live from 3 to 5 on Friday at Frickers on 741 by the Dayton Mall. Right now, they are doing their back-to-school promotion, and that means they need your help, and we need your help. We need you to bring out as much school supplies as you possibly can. You can come out, enjoy their great food and drink specials, catch the show live, hang out with Kev and I. That way you could tell me how much you dislike me to my face instead of doing it over the phone on social media. But we would love to kind of, put some faces with all the names of our listeners. We had a good time. I mean, we don't take the show out too often, but when we do, we always encourage all our listeners to come out and hang out. Everyone loves Frickers. Come on out to Frickers this Friday from 3 to 5. We'll be doing the show live. And if you bring any school supplies with you and donate the school supplies, you'll be entered into a drawing to win Dayton Dragons tickets. We'll also have Cincinnati Reds tickets and Bronson Arroyo Hall of Fame bobbleheads that will be given away. For every person that comes in and makes a donation, we'll enter your name into a drawing for the end of the night. Okay? So come on out this Friday. Frickers, 741 by the Dayton Mall. All right, 518-1410, 518-1410. We'll get to your calls in a moment. I opened up the show talking about the Cincinnati Reds, and I feel like, as the team continues to decline, as the production continues to decline, this team really struggling. It's one of those things where I know we've talked about it in the past. I'm not willing to do the whole, well, at least they're still mathematically in it. No. They're playing bad baseball. At the end of the day, this is a team that showed promise. This is a team that showed pop. This is a team that showed explosion. And now it's implosion. Like it's not good. It is not good. What we just watched against the Blue Jays is atrocious. You don't lose those games. You don't get embarrassed the way that they did this past Sunday. That was one of the worst baseball games I've seen. And we're not too far removed from the other horrible performances that they had against the Chicago Cubs when they gave up 36 runs in 2 days. They gave up 36 runs in 2 days, 20 of those in one game, 16 runs in the next night. I mean, absolutely atrocious. And then to give up the 12 runs that they did this past Sunday, 12 runs, it's a lot. It's not over the top, but it's just the way that they play too. Just horrible defensively in the outfield. Mistake after mistake. Ellie De La Cruz throwing it, Cade York wide left. I mean, it was embarrassing. Just so many errors, so many mistakes. I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening with this Reds team. But the bottom line is I'm not a fan of where they're going. I still think to this day the biggest mistake the Reds made all season was, the two biggest mistakes they made all season, and the one I'll put above the other, not Giving David Bell the extension when they did, atrocious. The dumbest decision I've ever seen that organization make. Probably dumber than moving on from Dusty Baker. Because this is who David Bell is. He's an up and down. It's a manager that even when this team has had talent, they're just so inconsistent. So many mistakes, and there's always been excuses for David Bell. You know, in 2020, when he had a loaded roster, one of the best rotations in baseball, when you had Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, and the Cy Young winning pitcher that year in Trevor Bauer, and you had Tyler Mahle. I mean, you had you had a legitimate rotation. You had a very good bullpen. You had guys that were capable of putting the bat on the ball. They didn't perform under you. Why? That's a David Bell problem. And David Bell's still the problem right now. Period. Anyways, let's move on to the next part of this conversation. The Angels. Okay. You know, it's funny because like in football, it's a copycat league. You see a lot of the teams, if it works for this team, we're going to do that. Right. And I don't have a problem with that. And the reason that it works that way is because every team plays under the same rules pretty much. The Browns have to spend the exact same amount of money as the Bengals and the Patriots. And there's not like you have the New York Giants, but we're not talking about, you know, New York is a huge market. You know, we're talking about the Los Angeles Rams, a huge market, but they're not spending more than the Browns or the Bengals, right? Like I know that there's a cap and everyone has to spend to a certain amount. Everyone can't spend more than a certain amount. That's why there's parity throughout the league. That's why teams are able to, you know, if you start to get a stacked roster, you're not able to keep it intact as long because you can't afford it because of the cap. So that's why the NFL is God. That's why the NFL is king. That's why it dominates all the professional sports, you know, landscape out there. Baseball, it's not the same. It's hard to be a copycat league in baseball because if if the Yankees are a dominant franchise, which they're not right now, but if they were a dominant franchise, you would say, well, just do what they're doing. Well, you can't. You can't. And that's why baseball, I think, is one of the worst sports out there. I love baseball. I love Major League Baseball, but I think it's one of the worst, produced game out there. I think that it's absolutely terrible. The logistics of the game, how it's managed, how it, the no cap, all that stuff. It's ridiculous. As much as the game has improved from last year to this year, as much as the ratings have improved, as much as attendance has improved, there's still so much meat left on the bone. But because of the boneheads that run baseball and because of the moronic Players Association that doesn't care about the fans, that only cares about, obviously their money, and as they should, don't get me wrong, but I'm more important than Mike Trout to baseball. You listening to my show right now, you're more important to baseball than Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. I know this is going to be crazy because NBA players are the most egotistical people in the world. I am more important to the NBA than LeBron James is because I matter. I matter. You matter. All right, Hooper sitting in the studio next to me. He matters to the NBA more than LeBron because our eyes, our ability to turn on their game and invest our time into their game, we matter more than the players do. They don't like to hear that. I don't give a damn. The reason I know this is because we hear it all the time. WNBA players, we work just as hard as the men. Well, here's the deal. This isn't a sexist segment. I'm here to tell you right now. I don't care what your opinion is about men's sports, women's sports. The bottom line is you can work as hard as the men do, but if there's not as much eyes on your product as the men's game, it doesn't matter. And that's the point. That's really what it comes down to. It's not like the WNBA is generating ratings that the NBA and that the NFL does, and they're just choosing not to pay them. There's not money coming in. It's simple economics. It's really not that damn hard. And that's why I look at the situation in baseball. As much as they have improved, they're leaving meat on the bone. So I bring this up because I'm watching a team like the Angels and just in shock of how you can have Mike Trout, one of the best players in the history of baseball, statistically, arguably the best player in the history of baseball, statistically. And then you have Shohei Ohtani, the most dominant player in my lifetime and probably your lifetime. Because the reason is I don't care how dangerous Barry Bonds was with the bat. He was, I mean, you could put him on the mound. He's not going to dominate a game. He could dominate in the box. He's not going to dominate a game on the mound, though. Shohei Ohtani, top 5 pitcher, top 5 hitter in baseball. We've never seen a player, an athlete, a star as dominant as what we're seeing with Shohei Ohtani, period. So I bring this up because I'm like, you're the Angels. You're Los Angeles. So the fact that you have Shohei Ohtani, it makes sense. The fact that you have Mike Trout, it makes sense. We're used to watching teams in Los Angeles, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball. That's where all the best players are because it's the big market and they can afford them all and blah, blah, blah. Well, to me, When we talk about our team, Cincinnati, and we talk about how limited of resources they have because they're a small market team, right? They're a small market team and all this, that, and the other. Well, the bottom line is that when we sit back and we make all the excuses in the world for that team, what's wild to me is that, I'm like, well, why even, I don't want the Reds to go anywhere, but if you can't do what you're supposed to, sell it or move. And I don't want that, but it's frustrating because I'm like, my gosh, if you are going to tease fans and say you're a Major League Baseball club, then be a Major League Baseball team. I say that about any job out there. I say that about whether it's my company or your company or anyone's company. If you can't afford to pay your employees, if you can't afford to update your equipment, if you can't afford to do things that you should as a restaurant or a radio station or a baseball team, if you can't afford to do those simple little things, then fold up shop because you don't care about your listeners. You don't care about your customers. You don't care about any of that crap. And that, like, you're almost doing it. I think that radio stations do more of a disservice at times than they do a service because they're not putting their best foot forward to provide all the best resources out there. Same thing for the Reds. Now they're looking the part because, they got Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain and all this. Well, all that means is you suck so bad for so long, you couldn't afford your star players, so you traded them for prospects, and now they've developed and they're great. But let's see if you can keep them all together here in a few years. But it's frustrating being a fan of the Reds because I'm watching a company not invest fully into their organization, and maybe it's because they can't afford it, and if you can't afford it, then sell it. It's as simple as that. We have friends. We love this set of friends that we have, but they can never go do anything because they're house poor, because they had to be cool, right? They had to get this gigantic house, and they had to, when they invite everyone over, it's bring your own dish. Man, you have a 3-car garage. You mean to tell me I need to bring deviled eggs just because you can't afford an additional side? They're house poor. Drives me nuts. Can't stand it. All right? If you could afford a house with a 3-car garage and, out in the country, it's all brick, it's a beautiful home. If you could afford this home, you could afford to make your own damn deviled eggs. Don't ask me to bring deviled eggs. Make your own damn deviled eggs. That's the Reds. If we need if you want us to have star players, you need to sell at this ballpark every day. If you want us to come to the ballpark, you need to provide us with a reason to come. Simple as that. I bring these things up because of the fact that there's so many limitations with the Angels, there's limitations with the Reds, and they are on complete opposite sides of the track here. The Angels have all the money in the world. They're in Los Angeles. They actually have 2 of the most dominant players in the history of baseball, and they can't make the playoffs. They can't win games. They can't win their division. They can't get in the wild card. They can't win in October. It's embarrassing. I think it's embarrassing that the Reds don't have enough money to compete with everyone in baseball. I think that's pretty sad. I think that's pretty low. However, we at least understand that their limitations come from the fact that, they can't go get a Shohei Ohtani or they can't go buy a Mike Trout. As bad and unfortunate as I think that the Reds organization is, I think that the Angels are the most embarrassing organization in pro sports because you have the talent, you have the money, you have the resources. You're in Los freaking Angeles. I think if you can't find a way to win in today's game with 2 of the best players, not just in the game today, but the history of the game, and you can't find a way to get good players to come play for you in Los Angeles when you have all the money in the world, when you are Los Angeles, if you can't do that there, you are a crappy, embarrassing organization, and everyone should be canned from the top down to the bottom. I think that the Angels are more embarrassing than when the Browns won one game in 2 years. I said 2 games earlier. I was doubling their win total. They won 1 game in 2 years. I think what the Angels are doing, not winning with Trout and Shohei Ohtani, I think that's more embarrassing than when the Browns won 1 game in 2 years. I think it's more embarrassing than when the Bengals won 6 games in 2 years. All right. The bottom line is that if you have the talent, and you in the money and the resources, and you're located in Los Angeles and you can't find a way to win, that is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen in the history of sports, period. Same thing with the Yankees. You can make an argument that over the last 10 years, which organization has been more embarrassing, the Yankees or the Reds? Now, the Yankees have playoff appearances, right? They've won their division. They win a lot of games, but they always come up short. You don't think that that's more embarrassing, that an organization like the Yankees with all the money in the world, the fact that you're based in New York City, the fact that you are baseball's darling child, you know what I mean? Like the fact that you can't win a World Series, you've gone a decade plus without winning a World Series. To me, folks, at the end of the day, you could make the argument that the Yankees have been more of a disappointing franchise in the last 10 years than the Cincinnati Reds. There's at least a reason that the Reds lose. I don't agree with it. but there's at least a reason. There's no excuse for the Yankees to lose, because we as Reds fans constantly say, man, they should have gone out and bought this player. Man, they should extend this guy. Man, we should have made this trade to go get him. Well, we say that we don't win because of that. Well, we see teams who can trade for elite players. We see teams who can go and buy the best players in the world, and we see them fail. To me, when you have the money, when you have the resources, when you play in a great market and you can't figure it out there, you're an embarrassment. And I think that teams like the Angels, teams like the Yankees, big markets, bigger than Cincinnati, you could make the argument that is with all the losing for the Reds, all the 90 loss-win seasons, last year's 100-loss season, the embarrassing rebuilds, all of that stuff. To me, the Yankees, the Angels have been more of a disappointment in the last 10 years than the Cincinnati Reds, and they've won more. But they're still a disappointment because you can't maximize your resources. The fact that the Reds are even in a playoff hunt, considering the fact that their entire roster is made up of rookie pitchers, of rookie stars and second-year players and no-name additions from the offseason. Sorry, folks. I think that's doing more with less. And I think anytime you run into a situation where franchises are doing more with less and still have a lot more to accomplish, don't get me wrong, but the fact that the Reds have done more with less than the Yankees and the Angels, who have done less with significantly more, oofa. I think that that's pretty bad. I really do. 518-1410, 518-1410. Let's see. Gordon Gross, he goes, Trout is great. He sure is injured a lot now, but he's injured all the time. He's injured all the time, and even when he has played like the majority of the season, they still haven't been able to win. I agree. Dennis Snyder said, oh, my God, you hit it right on the head about Dusty and Bell. I mean, look, it's not a coincidence that everywhere Dusty goes, he wins. He's a World Series champion now, and there's a reason that the Reds have been an embarrassment since he left. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yeah. Let's see. Ryan Strong. Sounds legit. Definitely going. The live shows are great. Thank you, Mr. Ryan Strong. He's going to come out and see us at Frickers this Friday on 741 by the Dayton Mall. Make sure you bring some school supplies. When you donate that school supplies, you'll be entered into a drawing to win Dragons tickets, Reds tickets. We have Bronson Royal Hall of Fame bobbleheads. I know my guy Jesse's waiting on hold. He wants to jump on the air with me. He's gonna jump on with us on the other side. I'm curious though. We have some spots in line. 518-1410. Am I off in saying that the Yankees have been a bigger disappointment in the last 10 years than the Reds? When the Reds' disappointments have stemmed from lack of resources and lack of money and lack of all the other excuses you want to throw out there, what's the Yankees' excuse? Seriously, what is the Yankees' excuse? When you think about the Angels, as I talked about, you have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and you can't win? That's absolutely embarrassing. What's their excuse? They have everything. You're in Los Angeles. You have money. You have resources. You have everything. And if you don't have something, you could just go buy it. It's that simple. That's why I don't feel bad for you rich people out there. You sad millionaires. Oh, man, my car's broke. Buy another one. Crybaby. My car breaks. My God, that's a whole ordeal. Let's just be clear. But no, in all seriousness, the Yankees, 60-64, 17 games back in the division. Unreal. They're 17 games back from the Baltimore Orioles. They can't compete with the Baltimore Orioles. The Reds went on the road with all rookies and took 2 or 3 from the Orioles not even a month and a half ago. They're a bigger disappointment in the last 10 years than the Reds. You have all the money in the world, can't win. Doesn't make any sense. Kenner and Kev, 1410 Wing AM. We'll be right back.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Summer rib season is back, baby, at Frickers. Join us for the perfect pairing of frickin' chicken chunks and baby back ribs together all summer long for only $14.99. Bring the whole family as kids 10 and under eat free from the kids menu all day, every day. Spend time with the family. Enjoy frickin' chicken chunks and baby back ribs all summer long for only $14.99, and kids 10 and under eat free only at the home for fun, food, sports, and spirits, Frickers.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, You're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
The Angie's List you know and trust is now Angie, and we're so much more than just a list. We still connect you with top local pros and show you ratings and reviews, but now we also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie, and we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Hey, I'm College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers, and I'm here with John Glazier from Glazier Softwater. Did you know we are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes?
Yes, I did. But did you know that Glazier Softwater is the home of the 7-year worry-free parts and labor warranty? We've been making water great since 1988. What were you doing in 1988?
That was my third year in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles. I had 10 touchdowns that season, and we made the playoffs in 1988.
So you can say that we both have been doing great since 1988. Glazier Softwater. Glazier Water is better water.
College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers here to tell you about OGW Energy Resources. If you own a home or a business and want to save money, then going solar with OGW Energy Resources is the way to go. OGW Energy Resources have been helping the Miami Valley save money by going solar for over 14 years. There is no better time than now to look into going solar. For more information, check out their website at ogwenergyresources.com. Go solar today. OGW Energy Resources. Your energy, your future, control it.
Need to update your furniture? Menards is your one-stop shop with all of the latest furniture styles at the lowest prices. Plus a great selection in stock, ready to take home today. So go ahead, relax in a recliner, get cozy in a love seat, or simply unwind with a comfy sofa. Need more seats? We've got sectionals too. Get 11% off your new furniture set now at Menards. Good through August 27th, savings or mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Discover credit cards do something awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right. Everything you've earned, double. See terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
Every week, we'll bring you the biggest high school football matchup in the Miami Valley. Don't miss our game of the week every Friday night as Justin Kinner and College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers call all the action on 1410 ESPN Radio and on 101.5 Hank FM.
Justin Kinner back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Coming up this Friday night, it's our Week 2 ESPN Dayton High School Football Game of the Week. The Northmont Thunderbolts going to be taking on LaSalle, one of the top high school programs out of Cincinnati. Pretty jacked about that. A lot of great matchups in Week 2. But that's our featured matchup that we'll be bringing you. College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers and myself live at Northmont, bringing you our Game of the Week, which, of course, you could also catch on our sister station, 101.5 Hank FM. You could stream it live at wingam.com. So appreciate that. Appreciate all of our sponsors who jumped on board to help us bring you high school football this fall. And, of course, you'll be hearing, their messages throughout the week and, of course, all throughout our Week 2 high school football matchup. One more time, this Friday night, LaSalle out of Cincinnati at Northmont. Pretty jacked about that matchup. Keith Byers and I live on the call. Pregame show starts at 6:30 with the Buffalo Wild Wings pregame show. We'll hear from the coaches. We'll get recaps from some of the top matchups last week, preview some of the big games around the Miami Valley, and, of course, Keith Byers. So that's all coming up Friday night. Okay. 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. We have a couple more minutes remaining here in the hour before we hand it off, so we got that coming up. We're excited to do. We got Reds baseball later on this evening. The thing that, and again, I'm starting to catch up with some of your guys' responses. Gordon Gross on Facebook about the Reds. The Reds are probably wishing they hadn't traded Castillo for 2 middle infielders. See, I'm fine with them trading Castillo. I was fine. I was happy that they went all in on the rebuild, because at first what I was concerned about is that they were just going to keep trying to roll out. Like if they would have extended Castellanos, I wasn't upset when they didn't extend Castellanos. I would have been upset had they extended Jesse Winker, moved on from Castellanos, didn't re-sign Sonny Gray, and then just trying to win with patch players here and there. That would have been a problem. I was like, if you're going to rebuild and just do it correctly. Stop trying to appease the fans at this point. The only way to win the fans back is to just properly execute the rebuild. And I think that they've done that, to be fair. It doesn't mean I'm happy about the rebuild, but if you're good, my take on the rebuild is they've killed it. It's just kind of, you know what I mean? But I do know what you're saying. It's like, of course, that's the thing though, guys. Like if you sit there and say, well, if they had Castillo still, well, then they would not have some of the top prospects that they do. And they wouldn't, that, you know what I mean? That wouldn't have all gelled well. And let's be clear. I know Hunter Green was bad the other day, but the starting pitching's been solid. They need run production. But this is the thing that I was upset about is the fact that, let's just wait for Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo to get back. You mean that Hunter Green? You mean you expected Hunter Green to come back instantly off the IL and just be Hunter Green again? No, it's going to take time. And how many times is he going to get lit up like that before he starts getting back into rhythm? Too little, too late by the time that happens. And then the excuse is like Doug Toby. Doug Toby, you must love losing because I've never seen a fan make more excuses for a bad organization than you. Now, you've been a Bengals fan for a while. And now finally, blind squirrel finds a nut. Every once in a while, they started winning. So now you're saying, oh, see, I knew all along. No, you didn't. You've been making excuses for a bad Bengals organization for decades. They're finally good. Now you're doing this whole I told you so thing. But now you're continuing to defend the Cincinnati Reds. Doug Toby, deadline pitchers were way overpriced. Get them cheaper in the offseason and maybe not so old. I wouldn't have given up 3 high-end prospects for Verlander, the old man. You mean Verlander, the old man, that since being traded, his team is 12 games above 500 since the deadline? You mean that team? You mean that team, the team that gave up top prospects that's currently a game and a half out of their division right now, 71-55? You mean that team? The Houston Astros that are probably going to go on. Like, I think that the Astros knew, hey, we want to, how about the Texas Rangers? They gave up some top prospects to go get Max Scherzer. They did what they needed to do. That team's sitting on top of the division right now. That team's going to win their division or they're for sure going to make the playoffs. You mean that team? Oh, I didn't want to give up prospects. Stop with the prospects thing. Like, I think that when you are a fan of a losing organization, you have been conditioned, and you're doing a great job, Doug. You're doing exactly what they've trained you to do. Focus on the prospects and don't focus on winning. I like winning. You could be obsessed with prospects. You can collect them like Pokemon cards. You could have posters of these prospects in your room. I want wins. I want a team that wins. I want a playoff team. I want a World Series championship. I want all of that. You collect prospects and you support that, that's fine. I'm going to urge my team to do what teams should do, and that's win ball games. All the contenders, they develop their farm system so that, yes, they could pluck up some of their prospects, but they can use the other ones to go get game-ready talent. And the Reds are trying to make the playoffs by calling up rookies in August. Oh, well, we're struggling. Let's bring up Noel Marte, and hopefully he'll get us over the hump. Or you could have went out and got veteran-proven arms and veteran-proven bats at the deadline that when they are at bat in crucial situations late in the playoff race, it's not foreign to them. That's all. But keep making excuses. Keep defending the team, all right? Keep defending the team that's going to be in the playoffs and potentially win a World Series. Doug Toby says, you mean like at losing football team up north? See, Doug, you know how I know that you don't know what you're talking about? You know how I know that I got you? Is because you had no other intelligent response other than to take a shot at the Browns. And that's fine. But hey, I acknowledge when the Browns make mistakes. Even I acknowledge when the Browns are losing and bad. A year ago, I said, you know what? The Browns aren't making the playoffs. If I'm Doug Toby, it's like, oh no, my quarterback, for instance, if you were a fan of the Browns, Doug Toby, with the way your homer mind works, you would have said, well, Deshaun's only going to get to play 6 games. So, but I think he's going to win MVP because of those 6 games. That's you. That's the fandom right there. That's the homerism there. I'm not a homer. I knew the Browns weren't going to make the playoffs last year, period. Like, it's fine, but stop making excuses. You're obsessed with prospects. I'm obsessed with winning. I like being a winner. Now, you're saying, well, you're a fan of the Browns. You obviously don't like winning. I don't like when they lose. But just like you did when the Bengals were losing all those years, you were fine with it because they were trying hard. What up, dude? Jesse, welcome, buddy.
Hey, what's going on, Dan? 6'3", 160. Ding. Is that the right?
Yeah,
right,
I need to get you some, introduction music and all of that. No, we only have a few minutes, but I wanted to make sure I got you on because I know you've been waiting. What's up, man?
Yeah, I tried to call yesterday and talk to Kev Nash. I don't know if he got a promotion or got called a case or something, but
he didn't get a promotion, but he's winning the day, not sitting with me for 3 hours. So there's that.
Well, when you talk about the small market, big market stuff, I'm a big small market fan, obviously, with Reds and the Bengals, but I did have a comparison. You know, as a Buckeyes fan, it would kind of being like an Angels fan or an LA fan or a New York fan would kind of be like when the Buckeyes lose 2 games. That would be like my big market thing. So yeah, I think it's a lot worse for the big market teams than it is us small market teams. We're kind of used to it, but like when the Buckeyes lose 2 games, that's a big deal. I mean, that would be like my big market, being here from Dayton and loving all these homer teams, the Flyers and everything. That would be the best comparison I could make to that, since I've never liked any kind of New York or Chicago team.
No, you're right. Actually, that's a very good point, because I think I've made that point. Justin, on like National Signing Day, I get so irritated with fans when they're doing the whole, man, look at Ohio State. They're just kicking ass on National Signing Day. I'm like, they kick ass on National Signing Day every year. They only have, they have 1 championship since 2000. I mean, the last title was in 2014. They kick ass with recruiting every year. That's why I get, I'm very critical of Ohio State, because I'm like, you don't get the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? Like, that's a program that if you're as dominant as you are, you should be in a championship game or in the playoffs, at least every other year at the least. So that's why I'm critical. The Dayton Flyers, that's why those fans hate me, is because of the fact that, hey, they brag about all this great 4- and 5-star talent that comes, and yet they haven't made an NCAA tournament in 7 years. So I'm like, hey, you guys should strive for more. And that's why Doug Tobey's driving me crazy. He's obsessed with the Reds leading the baseball with their prospects and everything, instead of leading them with titles and playoff appearances and wins.
I agree with you. And to close you out, I know you're in a hurry here. You talked about the high school fantasy draft, which I have no problem against it. But you did say something about the high school players would think that was awesome.
Wait, what did I say? What did I say?
You said that the high school players would think that was awesome, that people were doing a fantasy draft for them.
Yes, I think they would.
You know, there ain't no damn high school player around here that's the most popular kid in high school listening to the damn Justin Kenner show. I mean,
listen, come on, that's the goal, though, is to have such a kick-ass show that all of a sudden you have 16, 17-year-olds say, hey, man, did you catch that AM show the other day? That's how cool we're going to be. I promise you, I'm going to prove you guys wrong. High school fantasy football. All right, I'm going to come up with a scoring system, and Kev and I we're going to do that. We're going to have
a good night, Bubba.
Take care. 518-1410, Kenner and Kev Show right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station. All right, good stuff. We'll be right back.
Coming to you live from the Superbook Sports Studios in Kettering. You're listening to Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
Our forecast mostly clear, 65 tonight, sunny and 91 Wednesday, excessive heat watch for Thursday and a high of 97. I'm Rick Schrepp for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Now's the time to get a great deal on Kubota construction equipment, featuring durable Kubota engines, more comfort, more productivity, more get it done right. The Kubota construction lineup shows up ready to work every day. Right now, bring home select Kubota equipment for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 36 months. Now through September 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details.
Stop by Columbus Equipment in Columbus, Dayton, or Toledo to see their full line of Kubota construction equipment, or check them out online at ColumbusEquipment.com.
Have you lost Ohio Medicaid? At healthcare.gov, you can find a low-cost, quality health plan.
Do plans cover doctor visits?
What about emergency care?
And prescriptions?
All covered and more. Plus, with the new law,